China has politicized the Olympics, using its hosting of the Games to promote a glorious image of a rising economic power. The whole country and its vast resources have been mobilized to seek the respect and admiration of the world. But behind the curtain of falsehoods erected by the Chinese Communist Party lies a dramatically different China, in which millions of people are left behind, human rights are trampled upon, and justice is denied. Yes, we want the Olympics, but we want dignity more. We want justice more. We want human rights more. Sadly, to solidify its authoritarian rule, the Chinese Communist Party has used the excuse of Olympic security to persecute dissidents, malign Tibetans and Uyghurs, muzzle the media, and keep the people under even stricter surveillance. The photos from China you see before you are the tip of an iceberg of human rights abuses. Through them, you witness tragedies of hopelessness and gross injustice, the flip side of a glorious China, built upon the exploitation of ordinary Chinese people. The arsenic quantity in local drinking water largely exceeds the standard, resulting in arsenical paralysis, chronic poisoning, mental retardation, and even cancer. Due to the single-minded pursuit of economic advancement by the Chinese government and the resulting corrupt officials colluding with businessmen, the environment has been gravely polluted over the past 30 years, and the deterioration is accelerating. Billions of tons of toxic waste is produced every year and discharged in rivers, lakes, and on land. Now in China, more than 300 million people living in the rural areas have no clean water for drinking. Dr. Wang, the leading pioneer of the Chinese overseas democracy movement, was kidnapped by the secret police of the Chinese Communist Party in Vietnam in June 2002 and brought back to China and put in solitary confinement for life. The political persecution of dissidents in China by the Chinese Communist government has continued unabated, with some of the political prisoners even secretly put to death. The political situation for Chinese dissidents has been deteriorating in recent years. They have not only been kept under strict surveillance by the special police of the CCP, but have also suffered from wanton capture, brutal torture, and lengthy prison sentences without trial. Moreover, the Chinese government uses its propaganda tools to slander the overseas Chinese democracy activists, to damage their reputation, and does its utmost to split and fragment the overseas democracy movement organizations. In 2007, 545 counties in China, representing a population of over 48 million, were identified as national standard poverty counties by the government. However, in reality, there are about 135 million people in China, 10% of the population living below the international poverty standard, and about 23 million people live in absolute poverty. Increasingly, in recent years, the Chinese Communist government has consistently trampled the human rights of the Chinese people. A group of brave lawyers stands up to defend the interests and rights of these people, and people call them human rights lawyers. Mr. Guo Guoting, Mr. Gao Zhisheng, Mr. Chen Guangcheng, Mr. Guo Feisheng, and Mr. Zheng Enchong, prominent members of this human rights lawyers group, face constant political persecution by the Chinese Communist government. Mr. Guo Guoting was exiled, and Mr. Gao Zhisheng disappeared, both for defending Falun Gong. Mr. Zheng Enchong was jailed for protecting the rights of ordinary people in Shanghai, who were forced out of their homes to make way for development projects supported by both businessmen and the government. Mr. Guo Feisheng was put in jail because he tried to protect the rights of Darsha villagers. In today's prosperous China, any criticism of government corruption or reports on violence towards innocent villagers can be judged to be incitement to subvert state power. With the Olympic Games approaching, the communist government has largely tightened control and surveillance over dissidents, human rights activists, independent writers, and website reporters, and has arrested them more frequently. Mr. Hu Jia was sentenced to 3.5 years for subverting state power after publishing 5 articles that criticized the government. From 2000 to 2008, China leads the world in arrests of reporters and writers. According to the official survey of the Chinese government, in 2006 there were 3 million children who could not go to school due to poverty. The figures of an investigation by the Ankang program in West China show that there are 135,000 children in Sichuan province, 27,000 children in Ningxia Autonomous Region, and 50,000 children in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region who cannot afford to attend school. 70% of these children are also undernourished. In the last 10 years, politics has become increasingly corrupt in China. The abuse of power and the lack of legal recourse has led to countless unjust and false accusations and prosecutions. Tens of millions of petitioners come to Beijing for a redress of their grievances. However, they are usually detained, jailed, or sent back to their home provinces. At present, this impoverished group of citizens has been fully marginalized, with nowhere to turn, and has been given the name of the 57th ethnic group in China. These people come from all over the country and are mostly peasants who have had their land and homes seized by the government, workers who have been mistreated or taken advantage of, and victims of other injustices. Many of them are women, elderly, uneducated, or handicapped. In 2006, the United Nations warned the Beijing government that China could face a serious AIDS disaster. The impact of the infection on society would be disastrous, and the number of people infected could become the highest of any nation worldwide. The case of a large group of peasants in Henan who got infected with AIDS by blood selling has aroused the world's attention. According to the official statistics of the Chinese government, there were 850,000 AIDS infected in China by the end of 2005, and about 120,000 of them died. The way that the Chinese government has dealt with the AIDS problem for many years is to simply neglect the infected. China's persecution of AIDS activists has been strongly criticized by the rest of the world. The UN estimates that there are over 1 million AIDS-infected people in China, and there will be over 10 million cases by 2010 if no urgent measures are taken.